Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're walking through the blue and yellow doors of one of the most fascinating spaces in modern retail. Most of us just think of IKEA as that massive place to grab affordable, flat-pack furniture, right? But the second you step foot inside an IKEA, you aren't just entering a furniture store, you're actually walking into one of the largest, most meticulously engineered behavioral and psychological design labs on the entire planet. Literally every single detail around you, from the exact path you're forced to walk, to the lighting, right down to the smell wafting from the food court, it's all carefully orchestrated to shape your buying behavior. Today, we're decoding this environment. We're going to break down the psychology, the architecture, and the specific retail strategies that create an experience that is basically impossible to resist.
Okay, let's dive right into this, because I know this is a wildly familiar paradox for pretty much anyone who's ever made an IKEA run. You go in with one clear goal, right? You just need a desk lamp, maybe a new frying pan. You tell yourself, I'll be in and out in 15 minutes. But then, 3 hours later, you're rolling out to the parking lot with a cart full of vases, throw blankets, a fake potted plant you didn't even know you needed, and of course, a giant blue bag full of Swedish meatballs. Oh, and you probably got that lamp too. Well, this isn't an accident, and it's definitely not just a weakness in your willpower. It is actually the direct result of a highly sophisticated psychological trap.
To really understand why this happens, we have to talk about a foundational psychological mechanism known as the Gruen Effect. This is a phenomenon seen in retail design where you enter a deliberately confusing or massively scaled environment and you literally lose track of your original shopping intentions. The sheer size of the store, the intentional clutter, and the immersive glitz completely short-circuit your goals. You transform from a focused shopper with a mission into a wandering, impulsive buyer. It creates this temporary bubble where you're surrounded by extreme familiarity and comfort, which leaves you highly susceptible to sales manipulation.
Now, the incredible irony here is that the guy this effect is named after, an Austrian architect named Victor Gruen, actually hated this. Back in 1952, Gruen designed the world's first indoor, climate-controlled shopping mall. But his original vision was to create a safe, community-focused town center to bring people together in the suburbs. However, as malls exploded in popularity in the 1960s, retailers realized they could use his design elements to intentionally disorient customers and force impulse buys. Gruen absolutely despised how his ideas were manipulated. In a 1978 speech in London, he completely disowned modern malls, dropping a famously harsh quote about refusing to support them. He hated what the Gruen Effect had become. But the retailers? Oh, they loved it. And IKEA? They perfected it.
IKEA took this concept of disorientation and built an entire massive system around it. Internally, they actually have an official name for their famous maze-like one-way layout. They call it the long and natural path. When IKEA opened one of their first flagship stores outside Stockholm in 1965, the design was actually inspired by the continuously looping, spiraling path of the Guggenheim Museum in New York. Instead of a traditional grid of aisles where you can just grab what you want and leave, they trap you on a guided route. It forces you to slow down, dictates your movements, and locks you into fully decorated, immersive rooms in a very specific sequence. You're not just looking at products, you are being taken on a carefully curated tour of your potential future life.
Think about how the physical architecture of the store actively manipulates your perception of time. This is a massive part of the Gruen Effect. Have you ever noticed that there are basically 0 windows in IKEA's main shopping areas? You'll also never ever find a clock on the walls. By blocking out natural light and removing external time cues, IKEA deliberately deprives you of your natural sensory rhythms. You totally forget if it's morning, afternoon, or evening. A quick 30-minute trip easily bends into a 2-hour expedition because the environment creates a self-contained bubble. By bending your sense of time and space, they trap you in the present moment. They strip away the stress of the outside world so you can just focus entirely on exploring and buying.
And this brilliantly illustrates a fascinating parallel. If you take away the Scandinavian furniture, the psychological blueprint of an IKEA store is almost exactly the same as a Las Vegas casino floor. Both environments are intentionally disorienting. Both strip away clocks and windows to make you forget the outside world. They both use curving, maze-like paths to constantly walk you past endless temptations. In the casino industry, the golden rule is that the longer a person stays inside, the more money they're likely to spend. IKEA applies that exact same logic. They don't want you to find the exit quickly. They want you to get beautifully, blissfully lost.
As you're following this path, the store is cleverly shifting your psychological state. The journey starts in the showrooms. Here, you're in a dreaming inspiration phase. You're looking at a lived-in, 3-dimensional ad for a perfect life, a cozy bedroom with a book on the nightstand, or a functional studio apartment. It completely fires up your imagination.
But eventually, the maze funnels you downstairs into the marketplace and the flat-pack warehouse, and this is where the magic happens. The marketplace is flooded with small, grab-and-go items, while the warehouse holds all those big boxes. This physical transition flips your mindset from dreaming to acting. You've been inspired, now it's time to actually grab the items and make the purchase.
Now, you might be thinking, I hate the maze. I wish they'd just let me walk straight to what I need. Well, believe it or not, IKEA actually tried that, and the results were mind-blowing. A few years ago, IKEA opened some smaller locations in major city centers. They designed them just like standard open department stores. No maze, just choose your own path. They figured busy urbanites would want to get in and out fast, but shoppers literally hated it. Feedback surveys showed that without the guiding hand of the layout, people felt completely lost. Shoppers complained they were actually forgetting to buy things because they weren't being directly routed past them. It turns out, we actually crave that guided experience. Due to plummeting customer satisfaction, IKEA had to actively work to bring the maze format back.
As you're navigating this reinstated maze, a couple of powerful psychological biases kick in. First is the endowment effect. The second you pick up those cheap ice cube trays or toss a throw pillow into your big yellow bag, your brain actually starts to feel a sense of psychological ownership over it. It becomes genuinely hard to part with. Add to that the sunk cost fallacy. You've driven all the way to the store, navigated a giant maze, and invested hours of your day. Your brain tells you that walking out empty-handed would mean all that effort was completely wasted, so you end up buying those items just to justify the journey you just took.
So the crucial point is how they actually price those items you're dropping into your cart. IKEA leans heavily on the rule of 3. When you're looking at products, whether it's a cookware set, a shelf, or a mattress, you'll very frequently see them arranged in sets of 3. You'll see a basic entry-level version, a mid-range version, and a premium version. This is a classic behavioral design trick. By surrounding the middle option with a cheap, lower-quality alternative and a pricey premium alternative, they make that mid-price product suddenly look like the smartest, most logical choice. It subtly encourages you to spend just a little more than the bare minimum, while making you feel like you're getting a fantastic deal.
And that leads perfectly into another sneaky pricing trick, psychological anchoring. Early on in your journey through the showrooms, you might walk past a massive $799 sectional sofa. Even if you're not in the market for a sofa, your brain subconsciously registers that high number. It drops a psychological anchor. Later, when you hit the marketplace and see a lamp for $29 or a set of glasses for $5, those prices feel like an absolute steal by comparison. This stance of high and low anchors frames value through comparison rather than strict logic. And by the time you finally hit the warehouse, it makes those larger purchases feel completely reasonable.
Right in the middle of all this walking and calculating, you smell the food court. The cafeteria is not just a place to get a cheap meal, it is a highly calculated behavioral lever. Navigating a massive store is exhausting. Shopping fatigue sets in, and when people get hungry and tired, they leave. By offering cheap hot dogs and Swedish meatballs, IKEA directly addresses basic human bodily needs for hunger and rest. It softens the fatigue. In fact, studies show that customers who eat at the cafe end up spending significantly more money afterward because they've replenished their energy. Plus, it transforms an exhausting chore into a comforting family ritual, creating a powerful memory of belonging that keeps you coming back.
But what about after you leave the store? The manipulation doesn't stop there. You get those flat packs home, and the real work begins. You spend hours wrestling with an Allen wrench, trying to decode instruction manuals with 0 words, only to realize you installed a piece of wood backward. It's incredibly frustrating. But psychologists have literally named a phenomenon after this called the IKEA Effect. It turns out, when we build something ourselves, we actually value it far more than if we bought it pre-assembled. That intense effort we invest translates into a deep sense of pride and ownership. The frustration actually bonds you to the brand, turning a cheap piece of particle board into a personal achievement. From the moment you step through those doors and hop on the long and natural path, to the loss of time in the windowless showrooms, to that energizing plate of meatballs, and finally to your living room floor where you build the furniture yourself, IKEA refuses to leave the human experience to chance. They are quietly pulling every single lever that triggers our behavior: reward, ideology, disorientation, and ego. It is an absolute masterpiece of experiential retail design. So I'll leave you with this provocative question. Next time you go to IKEA, are you really navigating their store, or have they engineered the perfect system to navigate your mind? Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.